Hey, so we talk synergy. Hi, I'm Tammy Davis, founder of Revolutionary Aromatherapy. And synergy is something where the energy of different components collaborate, they cooperate, they create this. It's called, basically, it's like a cooperative effect. It's like how they work together. It's the matter of where the sum of the whole is better. I guess better is a good word. Is more effective. There you go. Is more effective than the individual parts. And I know that I just completely slaughtered that, but you know what I'm getting at. It's the whole. It's the whole plant. Like when you're working with essential oils, you have a complete oil when it's genuine and authentic, pure. There's distinctions here, and I have a handout if you'd like to receive it on how oils are actually being adulterated, and something to be aware of. I do not identify any companies. It's just a matter of becoming aware. And the fact is like, and even in an adulterated oil, there's going to be synergy. It's just like when you go and you bake something, right? When you're baking, there's a synergy of the way the components come together to form whatever it is you're baking. And this is happening in oils. In 1999, there is a term that came out of several studies around cannabis, and that was called the entourage effect. It's basically saying synergy, but they coined the phrase when it came to cannabis. And so whenever you go and look at different studies on cannabis, you're going to actually see possibly the value to using the whole plant as opposed to isolating CBD, isolating THC, which we know that they're doing. Scientists have been attempting to replicate nature for well over 100 years now. Once they were able to create an organic chemical from non-organic compounds, that's where organic chemistry was born, and that was in the late 19th century. Subsequently, they continue to study study nature, and now they're attempting to replicate synergy, and they're having a really tough time because they can't do it because it's not found together. It's like I was talking to somebody not too long ago about omegas, the omega-3s and the omega-6s, or the calcium and the magnesium. When these components are found together, not in a supplement, in a food, the body responds to it in a very different way than it does when it comes in something that is man-made. This is the entourage effect. This is what the scientists were attempting to establish, from 1999 on, the importance of using things that's a whole plant. And that's what I'm offering here. Is like when you have an adulterated plant or an adulterated oil, you actually are cutting it. You're separating the ability of the whole plant. So you're not going to get the same effect as you would if you were to actually use a genuine and authentic or pure oil. And the same thing can be said for food. So it's not just isolated to cannabis. And what's fascinating to me, and the point that I wanted to make here, is although they've identified it in the cannabinoid system, meaning in cannabis itself, the different cannabis plants, components like beta-caryophyllene, limonene, delta-carine, philandrine. I could go down the list of constituents. These are all constituent names that are found in cannabis. They are also found in other plants throughout nature. And this is where I have a strong objection to the idea of legalizing things like weed, cannabis, giving full reign to be able to use it, psychedelics. This is no disrespect to anybody who's working in this arena. They are beneficial. They do benefit us. At the same time, so do oils. My supposition is that we are not seeing the acceptance of oils, because of the thing I mentioned about it being adulterated, because there's a number of ways that they are adulterated, and it doesn't have to be through the use of man-made chemicals. Again, that's that handout. If you want that, just let me know. But the fact is that cannabinoid or chemicals found in cannabis are also found in oils, and my supposition is the reason why we're not embracing it, for one, like I said, is the potential for being adulterated. But yet, even that said, when we know, actually this is something I'm going to add here. I didn't even think about doing this, but I'm going to add it right now. So when we know a genuine and authentic essential oil, you're going to get a little aromatherapy class right now. A genuine and authentic essential oil comes from a plant that has been cultivated to specifically achieve the chemistry that they produce when it's distilled. Let me say that again. So a genuine and authentic essential oil comes from a plant that was deliberately cultivated to produce the essential oil with the type of percentage or the chemical profile that it produces. That's a genuine and authentic oil. A pure oil is not they're not cultivated for that purpose. However, they do not have adulteration. There's no chemicals added to it. The adulteration didn't take place. But the genuine and authentic, and this is the one I really want to harp on right now, because the plant is cultivated to produce the chemistry. And the reason that's important, number one, is, well, I'll pause there for a second and just say, so when it comes to cannabis, back in the 1960s, there's been a lot of research that was conducted on it, and the THC and CBD levels the ratio of CBD to THC was higher. And there were studies that were conducted on people who were having psychotic events through the use that they determined that were actually happening oftentimes when they were smoking marijuana, smoking weed. And I'm just thinking back on this study, because this is really unbelievably, I'm telling you what I witnessed in these studies is they were beginning to identify that the psychotic events were happening. Ultimately, what they determined was that the THC content in the marijuana was significantly higher than it had been decades earlier. They also recognized that CBD would negate that psychotic event. And they were having conversations at that moment to begin extraction processes to actually have the CBD as a separate product, if you will, to be able to assist people who are now been diagnosed, because once they get the psychotic event, once they have that experience, now they're diagnosed with whatever the person, the doctor wants to diagnose them with. And this is where the introduction of CBD came into the market. The intention that my purpose to sharing this with you is because these marijuana plants, this cannabis plant is actually being cultivated with the intention of having a higher THC content and a lower CBD content. And the significance to that is because they're fatty acids in the plant. It's only when they are heated that they become something that the body will begin to use, where they become these components that will plug into either the CB1 or the CB2 receptor. The reason why CBD's reached such popularity is because it plugs into the CB2 receptor. That's, the endocannabinoid system has different receptors. The CBD plugs into the CB2, which now influences CB1. Okay? So it actually, and THC plugs into the CB1. So there's these receptors have to work together. We're talking about the entourage effect. We're talking about the synergy of components. but yet in a plant that has a lower CBD value than it did historically, and somebody maybe sits down and smokes a ton of, a high level of cannabis, the possibility of, well, you're going to stay high longer. That's how I want to say it, because the CBD is not negating the THC. It's not helping the regulation of the CB1 receptor. So what you're doing is you're introducing a chemical that influences the CB1 receptor, and yet the CBD isn't countering that because these two work together. The next point, like I said earlier, is that that's because they're cultivating these plants to be this way, because people are looking for the high. And this is but more importantly, this is an example of how growers will intentionally cultivate a plant to produce a very specific chemistry. And the very same thing happens in the world of, the world of essential oils. And those are the ones that are currently being studied. Now, I say that because you can have a genuine and authentic oil, let's just say, that's grown here in New Mexico, okay? Or a plant, cultivated, genuine and authentic plant, grown here specifically to create an outcome. And you can grow it, say, in Corsica also. You're going to get there's going to be a different chemical profile. There's going to be some slight variances to it. If you grow it on the coast, where it's, on a coastline versus a desert or a mountainous area or a grassy field or grassy area, you get what I'm saying. The environment changes the chemistry. They can still be genuine and authentic, which is a good thing, but you're going to want to know what's in that oil. You're going to want to know the chemical profile before you actually go, okay, I'm going to use this oil for this reason. But the genuine and authentic, the entourage effect happens throughout nature, and it is a way of measuring how influential these whole plants are with the system. Like I said, the psychedelics, the cannabis, the reason why these are popular and growing in popularity and interest is because they have a psychoactive effect. That's the other reason, not just because they're being cultivated and grown this way, like the oils, but like I said, there's chemicals in cannabis that are found in many, many plants. In fact, I have oils that have a higher or almost basically as high a beta-caryophyllene content as cannabis. And beta-caryophyllene is really what helps to relax the system. And when you have an oil that contains it, and you cannot, by the way, you cannot combine some of these oils with antipsychotics, antidepressants, any kind of psychotropic medication. You got to use some caution when it has beta-caryophyllene in it, because it does have an effect on the endocannabinoid system. And that's because these chemicals are found throughout nature, not just in cannabis. And they do have very, very profound entourage effects when found in a whole oil. But like I said, I feel like the reason why some of these things like the psychedelics and the cannabis there's so much interest in them is because they do generate psychoactive effects, and you don't get that with the oil. So there are, again, if you have similar chemicals, you can use an oil. If you don't like or want the psychoactive effect, you can definitely get benefit from out of the oils. The concentration is going to be lower, so there's going to be a need to know how to work with it, but the ultimate outcome is going to be super duper good for you. So this is how we can gauge what part of nature or how we want to incorporate nature into our lifestyle. But I just wanted to share that, first of all, the entourage effect, synergy, happens throughout. It's a natural occurrence between chemicals. And I could go off and a whole day class explaining how these different chemicals work together. I'm not going to do that right now. But what I'm going to say is the entourage effect, the synergy of components is throughout nature. It's not just in cannabis. That the authentic and genuine plant components that, the authentic and genuine essential oils are specifically cultivated to create that profile, that chemical profile. They're doing the same thing with cannabis. So this is an art, and it's also a science. And you can get great benefit, especially if you learn how to combine them. But if you're gonna use something like cannabis, I recommend the whole plant. Don't go out and be buying CBD products. You know, I know there's some that have some THC in it. I don't know the percentage. I honestly don't know the percentages within this, and that depends on what state you're in. So, but I just wanted to share the kind of the connection between oils and cannabis, and why we're not seeing an increased interest in oils, because they help regulate your system without, you know, kind of throwing you for a loop. So that's what I would say. Because honestly, I can't do if I were to smoke weed, I just pass out. I fall asleep. Psychedelics, I need to have my brain. They freak me out. So that's another reason why I talk oils, because it was the perfect way for me to be able to establish a greater sense of emotional stability, which now in turn influenced and improved my physical well-being, arthritis and all. So if you have any questions, let me know, and I will see you very soon. Bye.